There was a couple of times where I said I couldn't do it anymore because I was delving into things that I'd blocked away for so long and I didn't want them brought back up.
Everything I said and did on them sentences, I thought was a lie because I was just telling people what they wanted to hear.
The routine kept me sane.
And if I was in a situation and it escalated slightly, I would just immediately attack.
I've never felt as safe as I did when I was in jail.
So did you do any courses while you were in there?
Yeah, I did like quite a few educational courses and then I did some like DBT and stuff like that with the mental health team in there.
Is that offence-related courses?
Not so much offence-related, that was just like part of a mental health group. And then nothing was really kind of set in stone as like a sentence plan of what I was doing. But then I'd met me OMU and then she'd said like, is there anything that you feel like you could benefit from while you're in here and stuff? And then obviously because there was this programme called the Primrose Programme.
Right.
And I'd heard a bit about it.
Just explain what it is.
So it's like back years ago it was called the DSPD, so
yes.
dangerously...
Like a special unit, wasn't it?
Yeah, for people with dangerous severe personality disorders. And then I had said asked what it was about, so she was like telling me about it and stuff, and I'd heard bits about it because obviously it was on the wing that I lived on. And then we got talking about it, and then I asked if I could maybe see about doing it, and then she'd said, I don't know if they will because I don't think your sentence is long enough. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, maybe it's just ask anyway. So my outside probation officer, Julianne, she'd come in to see us as well, and I'd mentioned it to her. And she thought it would be like good for me as well. So they'd said no at first, and then she says, I'm going to keep pushing about it, and then she did, and then eventually they says, oh, we will do an assessment on that to see if we could go any further, and then I got offered a place anyway.
And on that unit, were the kind of therapeutic interventions day to day without sitting down in a room? Was it all designed to kind of help you look within and recognise kind of how you'd end up in Lone Newton? Is that what it was?
So every, Monday to Friday, you would have some sort of a programme on, whether it was you sent them... me crying. So because I did one life minus violence, there was kind of few. We did a one called schema therapy, which I found really helped me. It helped me understand why I struggled most of my life with things that I did. But yeah, there was something on every day from Monday to Friday.
So these courses you done, were they mandatory or voluntary?
So that going onto the Primrose Pro, you could still pull out at any time.
Could you?
I mean, it probably wouldn't stand good against you, but
yeah.
I didn't want to. I wanted to be there. There was only...
That was my point, because what you find is a lot of lads will do courses as a bit of a blag for making sure they get parole when they're up for parole.
Yeah.
So yours was a genuine effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times where I said I couldn't do it anymore because I was delving into things that I'd blocked away for so long and I didn't want them brought back up. But once I calmed down, I was all right.
Yeah.
And doing that kind of thing, and because I know, again, coming back to the video that you did, the short film, which is excellent. What about the politics on the wing while you're trying to kind of look within? Just your day-to-day survival and what goes on. 'Cause you do have to be really careful, don't you? That balancing act. What was that like?
It puts it into practice, what you're
yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
There's too many different personalities on a wing, and especially women when one's trying to outdo the other one, and then it is pretty hard. Even just coming back to you, if you've had a tough session with your therapist, coming back to your room and not just being able to sit there in silence. People come at your door, have you got this, have you got that, have you got a cup of tea, have you got a cup of coffee? You can't, there's no escape from any of it.
No, the noise.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Prison Opticians Trust, providing vital eye care in prisons and empowering inmates with professional training for a better future.
So the work on the Primrose and then off into the pipe, and then you were mentioning this looking within and this therapeutic intervention and all that. And so you said you were on there 3 years. Did that weekly programs go on for 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
It was very intense.
For that length of time, I'm surprised because I thought you were going to say maybe a year tops.
No. That's why they like people like with bigger sentences so they can carry it out. Yeah. But no, it was kind of hard sometimes. I didn't so much like the group therapy sessions. I preferred it on my own.
Aye.
Because there was some people in there that I didn't like the sentences, the crimes that they'd done.
Right.
And I struggled really hard with being in the same room as them people.
Right.
But I did speak out one day.
they were sex offenders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did mention it to like Alison, my psychologist.
Yeah.
And they never put us back in a room with them again. So
it's not something you want to listen to, really.
No, I just don't. And then all I used to get is, well, you don't know what they've been through. I don't give a fuck what they've been through.
Yeah.
If they've been through that, then why put it onto somebody else if it's been such a bad thing for them?
I've always said that.
I struggle so hard with it.
You more than most should understand why not to do it if you've been subject to it.
Like, but then I try and think in my head, but it's all right to murder someone, but it's not all right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What's the biggest thing you got from it? If you could pick one thing from the 3 years of...
That I can talk about my mum now and not cry.
Right.
I could never, you couldn't ever have a conversation about my mum with us, because I would just be like, nah, don't talk about it.
So you're not going to cry if I ask you?
Oh no, that's good.
Well done.
It's been 27 years.
Is that because of the relationship you had with her, yeah? It was a bit rocky?
Oh no, no.
You were close, weren't you?
Me and my mum were dead
close?
close, but my mum died when I was 11, so...
Oh, right.
Yeah, just couldn't talk about it at all.
Right.
All right, so I know you mentioned the Primrose unit and stuff, and that NHS in Tuve. Is that who runs that?
Yeah, the Tees Escaway Valley, I think
So
it is.
there's doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists.
CPNs, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, a big, massive staff base. And then you have officers that they only work on Primrose.
Yes.
I think they can work on the main wings for overtime or whatever, but
They tend to be
just work
selective,
on
don't
there.
they?
Yeah. But they have to change every 3 years, I think it is now.
Yeah, and they'll be trained.
Yes, I would have, yeah.
Yeah, because it's different, isn't it?
They're a different kind of officer as well, though. When you go on there,
more relaxed.
You can call them by their first name.
Yeah.
But I never could. I couldn't bring myself to call her Karen or Laura. It was always oh.
What about you when you've worked on the units?
I worked on the,
Do people call you Tom and stuff?
2 special units, yeah. Used to train with them because you're with them all the time. I mean, some of them were natural lifers. They were going to die in prison. You've got to treat them differently.
Yeah.
It's not like on the wings where, if you say no to one of them, they normally go away. These lads don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we got a 2-week training course to go on there.
Yeah. Out of the 28 years?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was good as well. It was fun. Interesting.
So, the length of time then that you're on there, because I've done some programs and stuff like that, looking at offending behaviour and things like that, and everything I said and did on them sentences I thought was a lie, because I was just telling people what they wanted to hear, even down to the remorse I felt for victims and stuff. At the time I just thought, well, you got exactly what you deserved. It's only as the passage of time has gone on that I managed to kind of look at the victims and think, what I did was wrong. Mm-hmm. But during those sentences, I didn't look within. And when people were saying things, I was locking on to the trigger words. I feel deep remorse, I'm so sorry. And, the impact on people's families and the communities and stuff, because that's what I knew they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't until maybe 5, 6, 10 years later that some of the stuff on those programs actually did resonate with us. So it was like planting a seed that eventually was given an opportunity to grow, and then that's how I drifted into the kind of work that I do now.
Yeah.
So the length of time then on that unit, how long?
Just under 3 years.
And you were saying that every week, 1 or 2 programs, group work, so very, very intensive.
Yeah, very intensive.
Exhausting, I imagine, at times.
Sometimes it was sometimes I used to go away, my head would be banging, and I just wanted to go to sleep.
And opening yourself up to all of that and giving
and making yourself vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah, very. What about the other people who were on these groups and stuff? Because you have to feel comfortable, don't you, to kind of, there's got to be a huge amount of trust that you've got to give, and you've got to learn to trust yourself.
Yeah, it does take a lot for me, I think, to trust people. But not so much now, like obviously since I've done like therapy and that, but at the beginning you wouldn't really get a lot out of us. And then I think it's the whole manner of how they come and talk to you, and they're very good at getting around these things. And and then I started opening up, and there was times when I was just thinking, well, I'm done now. But then other times I think actually I do feel a bit better for talking about that. Or like through this schema therapy that I did, understanding why I reacted with things some way or other, and why I had the struggles that I had throughout life and where they've like come from and stuff. I found that a massive help.
Yeah, so the traumas and how you kind of dealt with situations and what was going, because with me, I would always deal with things extremely violently. Like I was if I said it once, that's all I was ever going to say it. So I would say, if you keep doing that, this is what's going to happen to you. But if they did keep doing that, then I would attack them or do whatever, terrible things to them. I never felt anything wrong about it.
No.
And if I was in a situation and it escalated slightly, I would just immediately attack. I would think that this is going to end up in violence. Probably looking back, in fact, definitely 90% of it was never going to end up in violence. But I made it happen. You know, I just couldn't let things go. So there were the things I had to look at on my sentence. But again, it took years and years to kind of things to catch up.
Yeah.
And the good people, such as NHS staff and stuff, doctors, some prison officers, you included, Tom, eventually. Those people did try and help me. Yeah. And they were saying there's a different way. I've even mentioned on talks I've done, some police officers, you know, even the National Crime Agency said, what are you doing? Which of course my response was nothing. But they were saying, what are you doing? All this harm you're causing. What's it all about? There's a different way, you know, you could be more. You could be more than what you are. So, but I couldn't even believe in that. You know, I was too filled with fear.
Yeah.
So by the time you finished this schema therapy, were you getting towards the back end of your sentence at that point?
So I think I finished Primrose, I think about 4 or 5 months before I left, like before my sentence was finished.
How were you feeling? Because you've got like kind of giving everything and making yourself vulnerable and trusting and having to kind of deal with who you'd been, and now that kind of transformation, metamorphosis, if you like, into someone else.
Ill.
Then onto the pipe where it was still, you know, there's a lot of activity going on, very different. And length of sentence on the pipe will have been different as well, was it? Because there was a lot of lifers on there.
Yeah.
And that affects the dynamic, doesn't it?
I heard because they're all settled, and then you went on to Primrose where you've got people coming in for a few coming in for a few weeks, a few months. The piddly little sentences, and they don't care about them.
Of course.
Whereas like myself, you got settled into that life of the routine kept me sane. I knew exactly what I was wearing every day, like what time I got up, what time I was going to work, I was coming home. And then I used to just lock myself in sometimes at night time, thinking, get away. So
I'm assuming you got released on licence?
Yes, I was on licence for 3.5 years.
So what sort of restrictions did you have on that?
Just that I wasn't allowed to go within like his area
like
of where he lived.
Zone.
Yeah. If I was to be in a shop and he came in the shop and I would have to walk out. That was mainly it, really.
Quite high risk, you know, because if you had bumped, I'm not suggesting you would, but if you had bumped into him and he kind of said, something's being said to us, then that would have been you back to prison, wouldn't it? So,
well, I did.
Even if you hadn't said anything, it would be enough to get you recalled, wouldn't it?
Oh, you did see him?
I have seen him. I've seen him a few times when I was on my licence, but he was scratting around in bloody bins and that.
Obviously,
he's like
in
a heroin addict now.
Terrible situation himself. Yeah.
So I don't think he would have known who I was, to be fair, because obviously I was a lot bigger as well before I'd gone into jail. I put my weight back on now, like, but I think I'd lost about 4 stone for when I come out of jail. So a lot of people were like, bloody hell, I didn't even recognise you. Like, my hair was a lot lighter. So I don't think he would have clicked who I was. I don't know, like you might have, but...
Yeah. So going back to the getting out phase of you pretty much had it mapped out.
Yeah.
You had somewhere to live that eventually got approved.
Yeah. But I still didn't want to go home though.
Did you not?
No.
Do you think you'd been conditioned a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then when I first went in, I seen lasses like that had been in and then they'd got out and then they were back. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? Like, why do they keep coming back for? And then by the time I was ready to go out. I was like, I don't want to go.
So it comes to your day release. Describe it. Sorry.
Hadn't slept all night.
Was it a bit of excitement and fear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was sad to leave like some of the offices and that. Like I got on dead well with the gym staff because obviously that was where I worked. But they all came over to reception on the morning when I was leaving and that. I was crying like a baby. I was like, I don't want to go. And then this one officer who I got on dead well, she was like, I don't want you to go either, but you're going to have to. You've just got to go. And then she went, you'll be fine, you'll be absolutely fine, but keep in touch.
Did you have any fear? What were your fears?
It's the unknown.
Right.
What if I go back out and I fall back in my old ways again? Drugs, what if I get back into drugs again? Like, once I've had a drink, everything goes out the window. Like, yeah.
Did any of that transpire when you got out?
A little bit. Not the first weekend, but the second weekend, I'd gone out with my friends and that and got absolutely obliterated.
On the drink?
Mm-hmm.
Did you make any bad choices?
I don't remember.
Right. Good night, then. How did people react to you having been in prison?
I think that was one of my big fears as well, about how people would be different with us. And not one person was.
Right.
Not one person. I even got my old job back at where I worked before.
Right.
I went and met her. I think I was out about 6 or 7 weeks and then she rang us and said, do you want to meet up for a coffee? So I was like, yeah, I can do. And then she offered us my job back.
Brilliant. Right, so you get out of prison, your accommodation's sorted, you say you got a job, got your old job back, and what was that doing?
Beauty therapy.
Right. So they were quite happy to have you back?
Yeah. I had to go back and like redo my last year at college, just because obviously I'd been out with the job for a while. And then after a year of being there, I got the job at where I'm at now doing hairdressing. And I've been there for 6 years now.
Right.
And probation, what was it, weekly visits, monthly?
Weekly.
Or did the scale go down?
Towards like the very end,
Yeah.
then it started to go to fortnightly, and then it went to monthly.
And were they
after
supportive?
that. Yeah, so part of like the pathway of coming out, I went to see like my probation officer once a week, but then I also seen another psychologist. So I saw her for probably about 3 years as well, actually, to be fair. When
So
I
I'm
came
getting a
out.
shock at how supportive the NHS has been. It's wonderful support, isn't it? I didn't know
really
that could
good.
happen. Yeah.
I don't know if it's part of being on like the Primrose and stuff.
Yeah. There was that extra care and
But
support.
I
in there,
definitely.
And your meds and stuff, there was just a transfer back to your GP and
Yeah.
so all that was sorted.
Yeah.
So what about the struggles then? Because the big thing, there's always a fee when you're being released, and the struggle's real and imagined. So what was the struggle early on for you? Because you said you had structure, you knew where you were, you knew what you were doing.
That was my main problem, I think. I think at first everybody wants to see you, everybody comes to see you, and then everybody goes back to their normal lives again, and then it's like, I'm a bit lonely now. What am I going to do? Like,
Just back it up a little bit. You know, while you were serving your sentence, did some of your old friends visit you, send you money in, keep in touch with you? So you had that was maintained throughout your sentence?
Yeah, great.
Because sometimes
support
that doesn't happen.
No, I did. I had really good support. There was a couple of friends I cut off.
Right.
Because I knew that if I was going back out and they were still in my life, then things I'd
Were
be
there
very
friends you might
easy
have took
put
drugs
back in.
and stuff
Yeah.
with? Yeah.
Because Gary's got a saying, and I steal it and I claim it as my own now. It's being in prison's like being at your own funeral, but you get to see who comes.
It's very true,
who's looking
isn't
after
it?
you, who's writing to you, who's visiting you, looking after your family while you're locked up. So I think that's when you find out who your real friends are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So adjusting back into your new life, that we often hear, don't we, that, I want my old life back. And I always say, dear, because that's what led you to prison or led you into drug addiction or whatever it may be, whatever kind of problems. So building a kind of new life and stuff, which takes courage. What's that been like for you?
Hard at first because I didn't know if I believed in myself that I could do it. So without trying to push myself, I just wanted to go back to where I knew I was safe. And I think as well, I've never felt, I know people might laugh, whatever. I've never felt as safe as I did when I was in jail. And then my auntie would always say to us, but you live with murderers and like, oh, and I'm like, hi. But they're not scary people. Some of them are the nicest bloody people I've ever met.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
What was the biggest challenge for you?
probably my son, because he didn't want anything to do with me. I told him off once at a visit about his attitude with his grandma and granddad and that, and then he just didn't want to see us no more.
Really?
And he stuck his heels in for a full year. I never seen him. Wasn't even allowed to contact him on the phone or anything. He proper dug his heels in.
He lives here now though, doesn't he?
Aye.
And again, I'll keep on come back to this film till I was laughing at saying that he eats us out of house and home.
Aye, does I?
So yeah,
Literally.
so that's a challenge.
So that take time to repair then?
Yeah. Then it was like with Mason, I feel like sometimes it's all or nothing.
Right.
Like he's like either with us or he's against us.
Right.
But then when he came back, he came. But then of course, I want to come live with Mum. I want to come and live with, I'm like, you can't, son. Like, it's not allowed until you're like 16 to make your own decisions about it and that. And then the day of his 16th birthday, that's when he moved back in.
It's been all jelly and custard since, hasn't it?
Aye,
Right.
he's a canny kid.
So now that you're here now and you're on your journey and now you're a podcast star, what happens now then? What does the future look like? I'm hoping you'll say that you become working with us in the prisons. That'll be good.
But I would like that, actually, to be fair. I would like that. I'd love to be able to help people that have the same fears of not being able to do it.
Yeah.
And that they can. Just a bit of support. Like, because obviously I got support from the NHS, like, but I didn't get a support from somebody that had been in that place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's different.
So knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to 21-year-old you? Get back to us with that.
I wished I had gotten all that support and help before it led to where it did.
Right.
It's a shame that I've had to go to prison to get the help.
Right.
But
So some good has come from prison then?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always say jail saved my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely saved my life. Or someone else's. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.